The room went so quiet that Nneka could hear the soft buzz of the air conditioner above her head. 5 people sat behind the long glass table. Their files were open, their pens were ready, their eyes were on her. Nneka stood in front of them in her simple navy blue dress, holding her worn black handbag with both hands. Her palms were wet, her throat felt dry. Then her husband laughed. Kelvin leaned back in his chair like he owned the room. His gray suit looked sharp. His gold watch flashed under the white office light. He looked at Nneka's legs, then looked at the other panel members with a smile that made her stomach turn. With those chicken legs, Kelvin said, how will she even stand the pressure of this job? Nobody laughed at first. The words hung in the air like smoke. Nneka felt her knees weaken inside her black shoes. Those shoes were old. The left heel had a small scratch near the back. She had polished them twice that morning, because Kelvin once told her, no matter how much you polish cheap things, they remain cheap. Now he had brought the same cruelty into a room full of strangers. One woman on the panel lowered her eyes. A younger man coughed and looked at his paper. The chairman, an older man with silver glasses, did not smile. He only watched Nneka as if he was waiting to see whether she would break. Kelvin tapped his pen on the table. Madame Nneka, he said, now acting formal, this is not a kitchen interview. This company needs strength. Nneka opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For 1 second, she saw herself running out of the room. She saw herself getting into a taxi. She saw herself going home, removing the shoes, and crying on the bathroom floor where Kelvin would not hear her. That was what she normally did. She swallowed pain until it became heavy inside her chest. But this time, something stopped her. Maybe it was the young office assistant standing near the door, holding extra files to her chest. The girl looked no older than 23. Her name tag said Ada. Her eyes were wide, and she looked at Nneka with fear, like she had seen this kind of shame before. Or maybe it was the memory of the text message Nneka had received that morning. Come prepared. Do not allow anyone to speak for you today. The message came from an unknown number. Nneka still did not know who sent it. She breathed in slowly. The room smelled of coffee, printer ink, and expensive perfume. Her fingers tightened around the handle of her bag until the leather pressed into her skin. Then Nneka lifted her head. My legs brought me here, she said softly. Let my brain answer the questions. The room stayed silent. Kelvin's smile shook just a little. And that was when Nneka remembered how the whole thing started. 3 weeks earlier, she was standing in her small kitchen at home, frying plantain while Kelvin sat in the dining room talking loudly on the phone. The oil hissed in the pan. The smell of ripe plantain filled the air, but Nneka could not enjoy it because Kelvin's voice was sharp and proud. Yes, yes, I am handling the board report, Kelvin said. Without me, that department will collapse. Nneka turned the plantain carefully. One piece slipped and hot oil touched her finger. She bit her lip to stop herself from crying out. Kelvin hated noise when he was on work calls. When the call ended, he walked into the kitchen and looked at the small notebook beside the stove. Nneka had been writing numbers in it all week. Market prices, transport costs, sales patterns, customer complaints from a business page she managed part-time for a friend. Kelvin picked up the notebook. What is this again? He asked. My analysis, Nneka said quietly, for the supply problem I told you about. Kelvin laughed through his nose. Analysis? Nneka, please. You studied business, but that does not mean you are business. Nneka reached for the notebook, but Kelvin lifted it higher. You are always writing as if somebody is waiting to discover you, he said. This is not film. Go and focus on something useful. Nneka said nothing. That was her problem. She said nothing when Kelvin mocked her. She said nothing when he introduced her to his friends as my simple wife who does not like stress. She said nothing when he told his mother she was too weak to manage a real job. And each time Nneka said nothing, Kelvin grew louder. That night, while Kelvin slept, Nneka opened her old laptop in the sitting room. The screen had one black line running down the left side. The fan made a tired grinding sound. She placed her notebook beside it and typed until after midnight. She was studying a public business case about Apex Crown Holdings, one of the biggest companies in Lagos. The company had a supply chain problem. Their products were moving slowly. Their branches were losing money. People online were complaining about late delivery. Nneka had noticed something small that others missed. The problem was not only transport, it was false demand reports from inside the company. Some branches were asking for more goods than they could sell. Other branches were receiving too little. Money was leaking through the wrong numbers. If someone corrected the system, the company could save millions. Nneka prepared a simple solution and sent it to the company's public innovation email. She did not expect anything. She only wanted to prove to herself that her mind still worked. 2 days later, she got a reply. Your submission has been reviewed. Please attend a private interview for the strategic operations lead position. Nneka read the message 6 times. Her heart beat so fast that she had to sit down. The salary was more than anything Kelvin had ever allowed her to dream of. With that job, Nneka could help her younger brother finish school. She could pay back the cooperative loan Kelvin did not know she had taken to support her sick mother. She could finally stop begging Kelvin for small money and hearing him sigh like she was a burden. But she did not tell Kelvin. That was her second mistake. Her silence protected her from his mouth, but it also built a wall around her. She had no one to help her prepare, no one to check her clothes, no one to say, Nneka, you can do this. Only the black shoes. She brought them out the night before the interview and placed them near the bed. The leather was faded, but they were still strong. She had worn those shoes years ago when she graduated from school. Her father had bought them before he died. Kelvin saw them and laughed. You are wearing those old chicken leg shoes, he asked. Nneka looked down at the shoes. They are comfortable, she said. They make your legs look like broomsticks, Kelvin said. Please don't embarrass me anywhere. Nneka froze. Embarrass you where? She asked. Kelvin's eyes narrowed. Why are you asking like that? Nneka quickly picked up the shoes and put them in her bag. No reason. Kelvin stared at her for a long moment. The standing fan turned left and right, pushing warm air around the room. Nneka could feel sweat gathering under her arms. Kelvin stepped closer. Nneka, he said, are you hiding something from me? Her fingers shook, but she forced a small smile. No, that one word saved her for the night, but it also made Kelvin suspicious. The next morning before sunrise, Nneka dressed in silence. She tied her hair back neatly. She wore small earrings. She slipped her feet into the black shoes. The floor was cold under her soles before the leather warmed around her feet. Kelvin was still in bed, or so she thought. As she reached the front door, his voice came from the hallway. Where are you going this early? Nneka's hand tightened around the door handle. I have something to do. What thing? She turned slowly. Kelvin stood there in his white singlet and pajama trousers. His face was sleepy, but his eyes were awake. Nneka could have told him. She could have said, I have an interview. But she already knew his first answer would be laughter. So she said, I am helping my friend. Kelvin smiled, but it was not a kind smile. At this time, in those shoes, Nneka's chest tightened. My friend needs me, she said. Kelvin walked closer and looked down at her legs. Just don't go and disgrace yourself, he said. The world is not as gentle as your kitchen. Nneka opened the door and stepped out before her courage failed. Outside, Lagos was already awake. Horns shouted from the road. A bus conductor yelled for passengers. There smelled of dust, fuel, and fried akara from a woman's roadside stand. Nneka walked carefully so the old heel would not break. Every step felt like a secret. At the company building, the glass walls rose high above her like something from another life. Security guards stood near the entrance. Men and women in fine suits walked through the revolving doors without fear. Nneka almost turned back. Then her phone buzzed. It was the unknown number again. Do not be late. Some people in that room are not who they pretend to be. Nneka stopped walking. Her fingers went cold. She looked around the busy entrance, but nobody seemed to be watching her. A delivery bike passed. A woman laughed into her phone. The security scanner beeped near the door. Who was sending these messages? And how did the person know about the room? Before Nneka could think more, a young woman rushed toward her with a stack of files pressed to her chest. One file slipped and fell open on the floor. Papers scattered near Nneka's shoes. I'm sorry, the young woman cried. Nneka bent down quickly to help her. That was how she first met Ada. Ada's hands were shaking as she gathered the papers. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying in the restroom. It's okay, Nneka said. Take your time. Ada looked at Nneka's face, then at her name on the visitor badge. You are Mrs. Nneka Hart, Ada whispered. Nneka paused. Yes, Ada swallowed. Please be careful inside. Nneka's heart gave a hard knock. What do you mean? Ada glanced over her shoulder. Her voice dropped lower. One of the panel members asked for your file before you arrived. He changed the order. He said you should be brought in last. Nneka felt a chill move over her arms. Who? Before Ada could answer, a man's voice called from the hallway. Ada, stop wasting time. Ada flinched like the voice had slapped her. She quickly picked up the last paper and stood. I'm sorry, Ada whispered. I have to go. Nneka watched Ada hurry away. Something about the girl's fear stayed with her. It was not ordinary office stress. It was the fear of someone who had learned to survive by staying quiet. Nneka knew that fear, and because she knew it, she should have asked more questions, but she did not. She followed the receptionist to the waiting area and sat with four other candidates. The leather chair was cold. The wall clock ticked too loudly. Every time a name was called, one person entered the interview room and came out looking pale. Then Nneka heard a familiar laugh from behind the closed door. Her stomach dropped. Kelvin. At first she told herself it was impossible. Kelvin worked with Apex Crown, yes, but he had told her he was attending an off-site meeting that morning. He had not said anything about interviews. Then the door opened. Kelvin stepped out with two other panel members. He saw her. For 1 second his face changed. Not shock, anger. Then he smiled the fake public smile Nneka hated most. My dear wife, Kelvin said loudly, so everyone in the waiting area could hear. What a surprise, the other candidates turned. Nneka stood slowly. Her mouth went dry again. Kelvin. He came closer and kissed the air near her cheek, not touching her skin. To everyone else it looked sweet. To Nneka, it felt like a warning. You should have told me you were coming, he said softly. I wanted to do it on my own, Nneka said. Kelvin's smile stayed, but his eyes hardened. On your own, he whispered. You entered my company behind my back. Nneka wanted to answer, but the receptionist called her name. Mrs. Nneka Hart, please come in. Kelvin turned toward the interview room and spread his hand like a gentleman. Please, he said, let us see what you came to do. That was how Nneka found herself in front of the glass table. That was how Kelvin waited until the chairman asked her to introduce herself. That was how he laughed and called her chicken-legged in a room full of people. And now, back in that cold interview room, Nneka stood with shame burning behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. The chairman adjusted his silver glasses. Mrs. Hart, he said, you may continue. Kelvin's pen stopped tapping. Nneka took one step forward. Her old shoe made a soft sound against the polished floor. My name is Nneka Hart, she said. I studied business administration. For the past few years, I have worked quietly with small businesses, helping them find where money is being wasted. Kelvin chuckled. Small businesses, he said. Madam, this is not your friend's provision shop. Nneka looked at him. For the first time in years, she did not look away. No, she said. That is why I came prepared. The younger man on the panel leaned forward. Nneka opened her handbag and brought out a thin folder. Her fingers still shook, but her voice grew clearer. I reviewed Apex Crown's public data, customer complaints, delivery delays, and stock movement patterns. The issue is not just logistics. It is false demand reporting from inside some branches. The woman on the panel lifted her head. Kelvin's face tightened. Nneka continued. Some branches are requesting goods they do not need. Others are being starved. Your system rewards managers for high demand requests, not real sales. That means people can make bad numbers look like growth. The room changed. Nobody looked bored now. The chairman folded his hands. Go on, he said. Nneka opened the folder, but as she turned the first page, something slipped out. It was not her paper. It was a printed report with Kelvin's name on it. Nneka stared at the heading, Strategic Recovery Report, prepared by Kelvin Hart. Her breath caught. She had seen parts of this report before, not because Kelvin showed her, because some of the wrong numbers matched the notes she had found weeks ago on the dining table. The same figures, the same branch codes, the same strange transfers she had once questioned before Kelvin told her to mind her business. Nneka's fingers went numb. Kelvin stood suddenly. That document is not part of her file, he said sharply. The chairman slowly turned to him. Sit down, Mr. Hart. Kelvin did not sit. His face had lost color. Ada, standing near the door, looked terrified. Her eyes moved from Kelvin to the report in Nneka's hand. Then Nneka noticed something small. Ada was holding the remaining files so tightly that one corner had bent, and on the top file, Nneka saw her own name. The chairman looked back at Nneka. Mrs. Hart, he said calmly, since this report has found its way into your interview folder, let us not waste the moment. Kelvin shook his head. Chairman, with respect, she cannot explain that report. She does not even understand. The chairman raised one hand, and Kelvin stopped. Then the chairman looked directly at Nneka. Mrs. Hart, he said, can you tell this panel what is wrong with your husband's report? Nneka looked at Kelvin. Kelvin's eyes begged her and threatened her at the same time. For years, Nneka's silence had protected him. Now the whole room waited to see if she would protect him again. And Nneka slowly turned the first page. Nneka looked down at Kelvin's report, and the letters on the page seemed to move for a moment. Her heart was beating so hard that she felt it in her ears. Kelvin was still standing beside the table. His mouth was tight, his hand was still holding his pen, but now the pen was shaking between his fingers. Nneka had seen that look before. It was the same look Kelvin gave her at home when she said something too true. A warning look. A look that said, "Stop now or you will suffer later." But this was not a sitting room. This was not a kitchen. This was not the dark bedroom where Nneka used to cry quietly, so he would not call her weak. This was a room full of people. And for the first time, Kelvin could not close the door and turn the truth into a private punishment. The chairman leaned forward. "Mrs. Hart," he said, "we are waiting." Nneka swallowed. Her throat felt like dry sand. She looked at the first page again. The report was neat, too neat. The graphs were colorful. The words sounded big and important, but the numbers underneath were wrong. Kelvin had always known how to dress a lie in a good suit. Nneka placed the report flat on the table. "The first problem," she said slowly, "is that the report blames delivery drivers for the company's losses." Kelvin gave a hard laugh. "Because they are part of the problem." Nneka did not look at him. "No," she said, "they are only the easy people to blame." The young man on the panel raised his eyebrows. Nneka pointed to one of the figures. "This branch in Lekki requested 2,000 units in 1 month. The report says the delay came from drivers, but the customer complaint record shows there was no demand for that amount. The branch asked for goods they could not sell." The woman on the panel, Mrs. Durojoy, picked up her own copy of the file. Nick continued. "Then this branch in Surulere had high customer demand, but they received only 400 units. That is why people waited. That is why customers complained. The problem is not just transport. The problem is wrong reporting from inside." The room became colder, or maybe Neka's hands were just cold. Kelvin's voice cut through the silence. "This is guesswork," he said. "She is using public data and emotions." Nneka finally turned to him. "Then why did your report hide the branch codes?" Kelvin blinked. That small blink told Nneka everything. The chairman looked at Kelvin. "Mr. Hart?" Kelvin adjusted his tie. "I did not hide anything," I summarized. Nneka nodded, almost sadly. "You summarized the truth until it disappeared." No one spoke. That line landed harder than Nneka expected. Even Ada, standing near the door, looked up quickly. Her lips parted a little, like she wanted to say something but was afraid. The chairman tapped the table once. "Continue, Mrs. Hart." Nneka turned to the second page. Her confidence was still thin, like a candle flame in wind, but it was alive. "The second problem is the payment trail," she said. Kelvin moved again. This time, the chairman's eyes sharpened. "Mr. Hart," the chairman said, "if you interrupt again, I will ask you to leave the room." Kelvin sat down slowly. His jaw worked like he was chewing anger. Nneka's eyes dropped to his shoes. They were black, shiny, and expensive. He had bought them 2 months ago and told her the price 3 times, as if money could make him taller than everyone else. Then she looked down at her own old black shoes. The left heel still had the scratch. For the first time, the scratch did not shame her. It reminded her that those shoes had carried her through every insult. So she stood straighter. "Some payments were approved for emergency delivery," Nneka said, "but the delivery dates do not match the warehouse exit records. Money left the company, but the goods did not move on the same days." Mrs. Durojayi's face changed. She looked at the younger man. He quickly opened his laptop and began typing. The sound of the keyboard filled the room like small stones falling on glass. Kelvin stared at Nneka with open hatred now. "How did you get that information?" he asked. Nneka's chest tightened. That question was dangerous, because the truth was, she had not gone looking for secret company records. She had only seen pieces of things Kelvin carelessly brought home. A note left inside his jacket, printed chart on the dining table, a phone call on speaker when he thought she was cooking and not listening. For years, Kelvin had treated Nneka like furniture. He forgot furniture could hear. Nneka chose her words carefully. "I got enough to know the public story does not match the real pattern," she said. The chairman's eyes stayed on her. "That is not a full answer," he said. Nneka felt the ground shift under her. Now the danger was no longer only Kelvin. If she said too much, it could sound like she had stolen company data. If she said too little, Kelvin would bury the truth again. Her old habit rose inside her like a hand around her throat. Be quiet. Do not cause trouble. Survive today. But then Ada made a small sound near the door. It was almost nothing. Just a shaky breath. Nneka turned her head. Ada's eyes were wet. In that moment, Nneka understood something. Ada was not only afraid of Kelvin because he was senior. Ada knew something too. Maybe she had carried files. Maybe she had seen names. Maybe she had been forced to keep quiet just like Nneka. And Nneka knew if she folded now, Ada would fold too. Nneka faced the panel again. I will answer, she said, but I want my answer recorded. Kelvin's chair scraped the floor. What nonsense is that? The chairman did not look shocked. He looked interested. Recorded, he asked. Yes, Nneka said, because if I say what I know in this room, I do not want anyone to later say I lied, begged, threatened, or came here to destroy my husband. The woman on the panel slowly nodded. The chairman pressed a button on the desk phone. A red light came on. Proceed, he said. Kelvin's face turned pale. Nneka could hear her own breathing now, slow, rough, scared. She opened her handbag and brought out her small notebook. Kelvin's eyes widened. It was the same notebook he had mocked in their kitchen. The same notebook he had once held above her head like a toy. The same notebook he called kitchen analysis. Nneka placed it beside the report. I started studying Apex Crown's public problem because I wanted to apply for this job, she said. At home, I noticed some numbers that looked like the public numbers, but they were not exactly the same. I wrote them down. Kelvin hit the table with his palm. She copied my private documents. Nneka did not flinch this time. No, she said. You brought the numbers home. You spoke loudly on calls. You left papers where anyone could see them because you believed I was too small to understand them. The room froze. Kelvin opened his mouth, then closed it. Nneka turned one page in the notebook. The paper made a soft, dry sound. I did not know what the numbers meant at first. But when the company replied to my submission, I prepared my own analysis. I came here to talk about waste, not crime. The chairman removed his glasses and cleaned them with a white cloth. And now? He asked. Nneka looked at Kelvin. Now I think the waste was not a mistake. The words entered the room like a knife. Kelvin stood again. His face was no longer proud. It was ugly with fear. This is my wife, he said to the panel. You people do not understand. She is angry because of family matters. She is trying to disgrace me because I correct her at home. Nneka's mouth went dry. There it was, the trap. Kelvin was trying to turn everything into marriage trouble. He was trying to make her look bitter, emotional, and unstable. Mrs. Durojai looked from Kelvin to Nneka. Mrs. Hart, she asked carefully, is there a personal issue between you and your husband that may affect your judgment here? Nneka felt pain twist inside her. Of course there was a personal issue. There were hundreds. There were insults at breakfast, mockery in the bedroom, quiet tears in bathrooms, years of being made to feel lucky for crumbs. But if she said all that now, Kelvin would smile again. He would say, you see, emotional woman. So Nneka did something she had never done before. She separated her pain from the proof. Yes, she said, there is a personal issue. Kelvin gave a small smile. Nneka continued. My husband insults me. He has done it for years. He called me chicken-legged in this room today. That is personal. The chairman's face hardened. Nneka placed one finger on the report. But these numbers are not personal. These branch codes are not personal. These missing delivery dates are not personal. This report is not personal. The smile died on Kelvin's face. Nneka leaned closer to the table. So please do not use my pain to hide the company's loss. Ada covered her mouth with one hand. The younger man on the panel whispered something to Mrs. Durojai, then turned his laptop toward the chairman. Sir, he said, some of her figures match the audit flags from last quarter. Kelvin spun toward him. What audit flags? The room became heavy. Nneka caught the words, audit flags. So there had already been signs. This interview was not just an interview. Someone had brought her here for a reason. The unknown text message came back to her mind. Some people in that room are not who they pretend to be. Nneka slowly turned toward the chairman. Sir, she said, did you already know? The chairman did not answer immediately. That silence was an answer by itself. Kelvin stepped back from the table. What is going on here? The chairman put his glasses back on. Mrs. Hart, he said, your submission reached one of our investors. That investor asked us to review your work closely. Kelvin's face twisted. Investor? Which investor? The chairman ignored him. Your work raised questions that our internal team had been afraid to raise, the chairman continued. But we did not expect your husband to be the person sitting on this panel today. Nneka's knees almost failed her. So it was true. She had not imagined the hidden weight in the room. Mrs. Durojai looked uncomfortable now. The younger man kept his eyes on the laptop. Ada stood very still by the door, like someone waiting for thunder. Kelvin pointed at Nneka. This is a setup, he said. My wife is being used. Nneka looked at him, and for the first time she saw him clearly. Not as the powerful husband, not as the respected manager, not as the man whose anger controlled the temperature of their home. She saw a scared man trying to hide behind volume. Kelvin, she said softly, why are you afraid of a woman you said knows nothing? That line broke something in the room. Mrs. Durojai looked away. The younger man pressed his lips together. The chairman's face stayed calm, but his eyes did not leave Kelvin. Kelvin walked toward Nneka so fast that Ada gasped. Stop talking, Kelvin said under his breath. Nneka heard him clearly. Everyone heard him clearly. The red recording light was still on. The chairman stood. Mr. Hart moved back. Kelvin froze. For one wild second, Nneka thought Kelvin might grab the notebook. She quickly placed her hand over it. The leather cover felt warm under her palm. Kelvin saw the movement. His eyes dropped to the notebook, then to her face. You think that little book will save you? He whispered. Nneka's fingers pressed harder against the cover. No, she whispered back, but it may save someone else. Her eyes moved to Ada. Ada looked down at once, and that was when Nneka noticed the small tear on Ada's file. A folded white paper was sticking out from inside it. On the edge of that paper, Nneka saw Kelvin's signature. Her heart gave another hard knock. Ada was not just carrying interview files. Ada was carrying something else. The chairman spoke again. Mrs. Hart, before we continue, I need you to answer one question very carefully. Nneka faced him. Yes, sir. He picked up Kelvin's report and held it beside Nneka's notebook. If your analysis is correct, then someone inside this company has been moving money through false delivery approvals. Kelvin laughed, but it sounded broken. This is madness. The chairman ignored him. He looked at Nneka. Can you identify the approval pattern? Nneka looked at the report. Then she looked at her notebook. Then she looked at Kelvin. If she answered, she would not just prove that Kelvin was wrong. She might open a door that could destroy his career, their marriage, and the fake life he had built around her silence. If she refused, she would return home to the same cage. Her hand shook on the notebook. The room waited. Nneka opened her mouth. But before she could speak, Ada suddenly dropped the files. The sound cracked through the room. Papers spread across the floor. Ada bent down quickly, but one envelope slid across the polished tiles and stopped beside Nneka's scratched black shoe. On the front of the envelope, someone had written in red pen, for Mrs. Nneka Hart only. Do not trust Kelvin. Kelvin lunged toward the envelope. Nneka bent down first, and before Kelvin could stop her, she picked it up. Nneka held the envelope with both hands. The paper was thick and cold against her fingers. Her name stared back at her in red ink. For Mrs. Nneka Hart only. Do not trust Kelvin. Nobody moved for a second. Even the air conditioner seemed to go quiet. Kelvin stood beside the table, breathing hard. His face had gone from anger to fear so quickly that Nneka almost did not recognize him. This was not the same man who laughed at her legs. This was not the same man who called her weak in their kitchen. This was a man looking at one small envelope like it was a loaded gun. Give me that, Kelvin said. His voice was low, but it carried through the room. Nneka stepped back. Kelvin took one step toward her. The chairman's voice cut across the room. Mr. Hart, do not move again. Kelvin stopped, but his eyes stayed on the envelope. Ada was still crouched near the fallen files. Her hands were shaking so badly that the papers rattled against the floor. She looked at Nneka with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Ada whispered. I didn't know how else to give it to you. Nneka's chest tightened. So Ada had planned this. The nervous young assistant, the one everyone ignored, had carried the thing that could break the whole room open. Kelvin pointed at Ada. You little snake, he said. Ada flinched. Something hot rose inside Nneka. For years, Kelvin's voice had made Nneka shrink, but when he used that same voice on Ada, something changed. Nneka saw herself in Ada's bent shoulders. She saw all the time she had kept quiet because silence felt safer than truth. Nneka moved in front of Ada without thinking. Do not talk to her like that, Nneka said. Kelvin stared at her. You are defending a girl who is trying to ruin your home. Nneka looked down at the envelope. My home was already breaking, she said. Maybe this is just the first honest sound it has made. Mrs. Durojai breathed out slowly. The chairman nodded toward the envelope. Mrs. Hart, open it. Kelvin shook his head. You cannot allow this. This is not part of the interview. The chairman looked at him. Neither was calling your wife chicken-legged. Yet you had no problem with that. Kelvin's mouth closed. Nneka slid one finger under the flap of the envelope. The sound of the paper tearing open was small, but it felt louder than a shout. Inside were three things: a photocopy of a delivery approval form, a bank transfer printout, and a small flash drive wrapped in tissue. Nneka stared at the first paper. Kelvin's signature was on it, but below the approval line, another name appeared: Nneka Hart, external consultant. Nneka's eyes froze. "What is this?" she whispered. The chairman stood for it from his seat and walked around the table. He did not take the paper from her. He waited until she lifted it higher. "Mrs.?" Durojai came closer too. Kelvin did not speak now. That scared Nneka more than his shouting. The younger man on the panel looked at the paper and frowned. "Sir, that name appeared in one of the suspicious vendor files." Nneka felt the room tilt. Vendor files? Her name? She looked at Kelvin. Kelvin looked away. For a moment, Nneka could not breathe. Her chest felt tight, as if someone had tied a rope around her ribs. The bigger shame was no longer that Kelvin had insulted her. The bigger danger was that he had used her. For months, maybe years, Kelvin had not just mocked her behind closed doors. He had placed her name near his crime like a dirty cloth over a stain. Nneka gripped the paper so hard that it bent. "Kelvin," she said, and her voice shook. "Why is my name here?" Kelvin rubbed his forehead. "You don't understand. Then help me understand." He looked around the room like he was searching for a door that did not exist. "I did it to protect us," Kelvin said. Nneka let out a small, broken laugh. It did not sound like joy. It sounded like pain tearing itself open. "To protect us?" Kelvin's voice rose. "Yes. You think life is easy? You think this house, this car, this respect, everything just appears." "I was under pressure." Nneka stared at him. There it was again. Kelvin was trying to turn his wrong into sacrifice. He was trying to make theft sound like love. The chairman's face was hard now. "Mr. Hart, be careful what you admit." Kelvin ignored him. He looked only at Nneka. "I used your name because nobody would suspect you. You were not even in the company. You were safe." Nneka's fingers went cold around the paper. Safe. That word hit her harder than the insult. Kelvin had put a name in a crime and called it safety. Ada stood slowly behind Nneka. "He told me to file them," Ada said, her voice small but clear. "He said if I talked, I would lose my job. He said nobody would believe a common assistant." Kelvin turned on her. "Shut up!" But this time Ada did not step back. Her hands still shook, but she lifted her chin. "You also said nobody would believe your wife," Ada said. "You said she was too quiet to fight back." Nneka closed her eyes. There it was. The truth, spoken by someone who had heard Kelvin when Nneka was not there. Mrs. Durojaye covered her mouth with her hand. The chairman looked at the flash drive. "What is on that?" he asked Ada. Ada swallowed. "Copies of emails, delivery approvals, voice notes. I saved them because I was afraid he would blame me one day." Kelvin laughed sharply. "This is illegal." Ada looked at him with wet eyes. "So was making me sign files I never understood." The room went silent again. But this silence was different. The first silence had been shame. This one was judgment. The chairman picked up the desk phone. "Call internal audit and legal to this room," he said. "Now." Kelvin's face twisted. "Chairman, please," he said quickly. "Let us handle this quietly." The chairman looked at him. "You had many chances to be quiet. You used all of them to insult the woman whose name you hid behind." Kelvin turned back to Nneka. His eyes changed again. Now he looked like the Kelvin from home. Not proud, not polished. Just angry enough to hurt with words. "You think they care about you," he said. "They are using you, Nneka. When this is over, you will still be my wife. You will still come home." Nneka's stomach tightened. For one second, fear returned, because Kelvin was right about one thing. There was a home waiting outside this room. A home with locked doors. A home where he knew how to punish without leaving marks. A home where silence had survived for years. Then Nneka looked down at her shoes. The scratched black heel was beside the fallen papers. Those shoes had walked into the room carrying shame. Now they stood beside proof. Nneka lifted her head. "No," Kelvin frowned. "No what? No, I will not return to the same home as the same woman." Kelvin's lips parted. Nneka faced the chairman. "I will cooperate with any investigation," she said. "But I want it recorded that I did not create these accounts. I did not approve these transfers. I did not know my name was being used." The chairman nodded. "It is recorded." Nneka turned to Ada. "And she should be protected too," Nneka said. "Ada did not steal. Ada was afraid." Ada began to cry quietly. The chairman looked at Ada. You will be protected as a witness if your statement is true. Ada nodded fast. Kelvin stared at Nneka like he could not believe what was happening. You are choosing a stranger over your husband? He asked. Nneka looked at him for a long moment. No, she said. I'm choosing the truth over the man who used marriage as a hiding place. That line struck him. Kelvin's face fell, not fully, not with regret yet, more like a man who had finally seen that the floor beneath him was gone. The door opened. Two people entered with serious faces. One woman carried a laptop. One man carried a file marked internal audit. The room became busy, but Nneka stood still. The legal woman took the flash drive. The audit man checked the transfer printout. Mrs. Durojai asked Ada to sit and drink water. Kelvin was asked to surrender his company laptop and phone. At first, he refused. This is an insult, he said. I built this department. The chairman answered calmly. You also helped break it. Kelvin looked at the panel, waiting for someone to defend him. No one did. The same room where he had laughed at Nneka now watched him lose the respect he had polished for years. But the pain in Nneka's chest did not disappear. That surprised her. She had imagined that if Kelvin was ever exposed, she would feel joy. She thought revenge would taste sweet. Instead, it tasted like metal in her mouth. Because this was still her husband. This was still the man whose name sat beside hers on marriage papers. This was still the man she had once loved before his pride turned their home into a place where she had to breathe carefully. Kelvin looked at her one last time as the audit man took his phone. Nneka, he said softer now. Please. The word almost broke her. Please. How many times had she wanted to hear that word from him? Not as begging, as kindness, as apology, as respect. But now it came only because his world was falling. Nneka's fingers tightened around her notebook. You are not sorry you hurt me, she said. You are sorry they heard it. Kelvin looked down. He had no answer. And because he had no answer, Nneka finally understood something painful. Some people do not regret the wound. They regret the witness. The chairman asked Kelvin to leave the interview room until further notice. Kelvin walked out slowly, without his phone, without his laptop, without his proud smile. His shiny shoes made dull sounds against the floor. At the door, he stopped and looked back. For a second, Nneka thought he would say something human, something honest, something that sounded like the man she once hoped he could become. Instead, he said, You will regret this. Then he left. The door closed behind him. Nneka's body shook all at once. She grabbed the edge of the table. Eda rushed toward her, but Nneka lifted one hand. I'm okay, Nneka said. But she was not okay. Not yet. The chairman gave her time. Nobody rushed her. Nobody told her to sit like a weak woman. Nobody laughed. The room waited for her as if her breathing mattered. After a while, the chairman returned to his seat. Mrs. Hart, he said, this interview cannot continue in the usual way. Nneka nodded slowly. I understand. Her heart sank a little. Maybe she had lost the job. Maybe speaking the truth had cost her the one chance she came for. Maybe Kelvin had still managed to ruin her, even while falling himself. Then the chairman folded his hands. No, he said, as if he had read her fear. You misunderstand me. Nneka looked up. He pushed Kelvin's report aside and placed Nneka's notebook in the center of the table. We have seen enough to know two things, he said. First, your analysis is strong. Second, your courage is stronger than your application. Nneka did not breathe. Mrs. Jurojai leaned forward. The strategic operations lead position is still open, she said. But after what happened today, the chairman and I believe the company needs someone who can help rebuild trust from the inside. Nneka stared at her. The chairman continued. We cannot appoint you into a final executive role today without due process. But we can offer you an interim appointment as special review lead under the investor's office, pending board approval. Nneka's lips parted. What does that mean? She asked. It means, the chairman said, you will lead a small review team for the same system you exposed. You will report above Kelvin's former department, not under it. Ada's eyes widened. Nneka looked at the notebook, her small notebook, her kitchen analysis. The thing Kelvin mocked had become the thing sitting in the center of a company's rescue. Tears came to her eyes, but she did not let them fall yet. What about Ada? Nneka asked. Ada looked shocked. Me, Nneka turned to her. You kept evidence when you were scared. You protected the truth even when your hands were shaking. Ada wiped her cheek. The chairman looked at Ada thoughtfully. If Ada's statement checks out, he said, she will be moved out of Kelvin's chain of command immediately. She may assist the review team. Ada covered her mouth again. This time the tears were different. Nneka felt something inside her soften, but not in a weak way. It softened like a locked door opening. The chairman stood. Mrs. Hart, he said, what happened to you in this room was shameful. On behalf of this panel, I apologize. Nneka's eyes burned. For years, she had waited for one apology from Kelvin. Instead, she received one from strangers who had known her for less than an hour. That was when the weight of it all nearly crushed her. The women on the panel began to clap, slowly at first. Then the younger man joined, then Ada, then the chairman. Nneka stood there in her warm black shoes as the room that had heard her insult now stood to honor her. The sound of clapping filled the glass room. But Nneka did not smile like a woman who had won revenge. She stood like a woman who had survived the truth. Because the hardest part was still outside that room. By evening, Kelvin's suspension spread quietly through the company. His access card was blocked. His office was sealed. Internal audit began checking old approvals. Legal asked Nneka for a formal statement. Nneka gave it. Her voice shook in the beginning, but it did not break. Ada sat near her with a cup of water, and every few minutes their eyes met. No big words passed between them. They did not need any. They both knew what it meant to be afraid and still speak. When Nneka finally left the building, Lagos was hot and loud outside. Car horns blared, street sellers shouted. The smell of roasted corn mixed with fuel smoke in the evening air. Nneka stood on the front steps and looked down at her shoes. One heel was scratched, one side was dusty, but both shoes were still standing. Her phone buzzed. A message from Kelvin. Come home now. We need to talk before you make this worse. Nneka stared at the screen. Then another message came. If you respect this marriage, you will not involve outsiders. Nneka almost laughed. Outsiders. The same man who dragged her shame into a room full of people now wanted privacy for his own disgrace. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. For a moment she wanted to send anger. She wanted to write every pain, every insult, every night she cried quietly. But she stopped. That would be the old cage calling her back. Instead, Nneka typed only one sentence. I will speak through the proper process now. She sent it. Then she blocked him for the night. Not forever. Not as a final answer. Just for the night. Because justice needed quiet too. Nneka did not go home. She went to her younger brother's small apartment. When he opened the door and saw her face, he did not ask too many questions. He simply stepped aside and said, Sister, come in. Those simple words broke her more than the applause. Nneka walked in, removed her black shoes, and placed them beside the door. For the first time, she did not hide them. 3 days later, the board confirmed Kelvin's suspension while the investigation continued. More evidence came out. Some branch managers were questioned. One finance officer admitted that Kelvin had pressured him to approve payments. Kelvin's proud name began to shrink, but Nneka's name began to grow, not because she shouted, not because she destroyed him in anger, but because she did the one thing Kelvin never expected. She kept showing up. She showed up for the review meetings. She showed up for Ada's witness statement. She showed up when the investor's representative asked her to explain the system again. She showed up even when her hands trembled under the table. 1 week later, Nneka entered the same interview room again. This time, Kelvin was not there. The glass table was clean. The air smelled of coffee again. Her notebook sat in front of her. Her black shoes were polished, but the scratch was still there. The chairman looked at her. Mrs. Hart, he said, the board has approved your interim appointment. Nneka closed her eyes briefly. She saw the kitchen. She saw hot oil burning her finger. She saw Kelvin lifting her notebook and laughing. She saw Ada dropping the files. She saw the envelope at her feet. Then she opened her eyes. Thank you, sir, she said. Mrs. Durojai smiled gently. There is one more thing. Nneka's stomach tightened. The chairman slid a document across the table. We need a written statement from you about Kelvin's involvement. Your words may decide whether the company pursues criminal charges immediately or gives him the chance to return part of the money first. Nneka stared at the paper. There it was, the final knife. Everyone expected her to use it. After all, Kelvin had humiliated her, used her name, threatened her, tried to bury her under his lies. One signature from Nneka could push him into a deeper hole. For a moment, she imagined it. Kelvin alone, Kelvin disgraced, Kelvin begging, Kelvin finally feeling small. It would be easy to call that justice. But easy things had trapped her before. Nneka looked at her scratched shoe under the table. Then she looked at Ada, sitting quietly in the corner with a new staff badge around her neck. Ada's face carried hope now, but also fear. Ada was watching to see what power would do to Nneka. That was when Nneka understood the real test. Kelvin had used power to crash. If Nneka used her new power only to crash him back, she would still be letting him choose the shape of her heart. She picked up the pen. The room waited. Nneka signed the statement. Then she added one note at the bottom. I want full justice through the law and company policy. I do not want evidence hidden, and I do not want revenge outside the truth. Let him answer for what he did, but do not use my pain to create a lie against him. The chairman read the note slowly. Mrs. Durojai looked at Nneka with quiet respect. Ada smiled through tears. Nneka placed the pen down. My revenge is not to become cruel, she said. My revenge is to become free. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then the chairman nodded. That, he said, is the kind of leader this company needs. Nneka did not forgive Kelvin that day. She did not run back to him. She did not pretend the wounds were small. She began the legal steps to protect herself. She moved her important documents out of their home. She opened a separate bank account. She found a counselor through the company support program. She took her mother's calls without lying that everything was fine. And when Kelvin later sent a long apology, Nneka read only the first line. I am sorry for embarrassing us. She did not reply, because even then, Kelvin still did not understand. He thought the shame was that people saw him fall. Nneka knew the real shame was how long he had made her crawl inside her own life. Months later, Nneka stood in front of a new team at Apex Crown. Ada sat among them, no longer shaking when she held files. The company was still healing. Some people had lost jobs. Some had returned stolen money. Some were still being investigated. Nneka's own life was not perfect, but it was honest. She wore the same black shoes on her first official day as review lead. Someone offered to help her buy new ones. Nneka smiled and said, not yet, because every time those shoes touched the floor, she remembered something. Kelvin had mocked her legs, but those legs had carried her into the room. Kelvin had mocked her silence, but that silence had been listening. Kelvin had mocked her notebook, but that notebook had opened the truth. And when Nneka walked into the boardroom that morning, no one laughed. They stood, not because she was Kelvin's wife, not because she had suffered, but because she had become the woman he said she could never be. And this time, when Nneka stood at the head of the table, her voice did not shake. Let us begin, she said. The room listened.